So, what is intentionality? For example, why Tintin right away asked about. No, Tintin asked or Naveen asked about miracle, Aisha miracle.
I asked,
No,
sir.
Tintin, sir. Yes.
Yeah. So, what was the why he asked that?
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
My question was regarding she was there for a few classes and then she disappeared. So I was concerned.
One. So, Tintin always remember there will be minimum 3 linkages for any perception, any dialogue, any thought, any statement, anything,
Yes, sir.
any variant. Every statement is a variant, every word is a variant, every mood is a variant, every moment is a variant.
Second thought which came to my mind was we spent, I think, about almost a year beating around the bush while she directly jumped into the heart of the forest.
That's a very poetic English. Every one of you, I have noticed yesterday your review. I see different creative variations in the positive sense happening to your reviews. Because reviewing is not that easy. Reviewing and making critical comments at the end is a very tough task. So that you are mastering, and what Tintin said, I really, it's a brilliant syntax. Anyway, syntax meaning assemblage of words and sequence in a given context. All right, yeah, that is two, then three.
Three, I was thinking of the destiny part, sir.
But I don't think so. My question is about why you talked about Aisha miracle, or why you asked. That all subsequent thoughts. I am talking about the pre,
The
not the
pre,
post.
yeah, the pre, like maybe what Naveenji suggested, is also the presence of her mother yesterday, and
Hmm.
then was thinking,
Yeah, see. And I told you, depending upon the kind of observations made, or perceptions happening, or cognitions happening, or experiences happening, okay, or feelings happening, like feeling depressed, or feeling thrilled, or feeling anxiety, etc. Depending upon that, in varying degrees, at least definitely minimum 30%, data collection and data analysis is done at the non-conscious level. Okay. So when you identify that, you become more and more tuned with the so-called non-conscious. That means the entire mind, entire conscious, then only entire consciousness will become open.
Mm-hmm.
So this is actually you have logically or creatively identified one of the non-conscious data, which is quite possible. uh, which you were not aware that you are looking at all these factors, and therefore you asked about Aisha miracle. Get the point?
yes, sir.
These are the data process happened inside the engines of intellect. uh, then three is the minimum. There could be many more. Can you say one more, which may not be there, but it could be there? A fourth one. Why you asked about Aisha miracle?
There was a,
It could be an attributed one. It could be a logically extended
uh,
reason also. Yeah.
I guess there is a wanting to see her succeed because, firstly, she's like you said, somebody who is mastering CA.
Hmm.
That itself is a trait. Along with that, she is also a dancer,
Hmm.
which is amazing. I did not know about the other aspects which you told right now. But again,
Which
looking at
other aspect? Illness.
the illness,
You did not know. That was told in the very beginning. The first instance when she came.
I was not there for that
Okay,
session.
okay.
So then I was thinking like there is another person who is very vibrant, who is very, I thought, eligible and wanted
Yeah, very quite eligible. Yes.
her to succeed and move.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. Okay, having said the fourth one, why don't you say one more? Don't go so deep,
Mm.
because non-conscious is unlikely in this context to make such a deep analysis. So, what other signals the system detected in order to generate that observation? or to generate that question about Aisha miracle. Did you hear all that I said?
Yes, sir. What prompted me to ask
What?
that
No, no,
question?
no, no. What other data or signals your system must have processed now? Now, of course, it's all now only. Yeah.
I think one aspect is Naveen ji is wearing white, and she was wearing white, I think, on the sessions.
No.
Not that.
That Tintin, though my question looks very peripheral, it has deep implications. Okay. Here, it is done by your non-conscious. At that time, we are talking about the pre. At that time, the non-conscious data analysis will mostly depend on the available. First, it will depend on the available data. What is the available data right now on the screen?
Four of us and a discussion about Aisha miracle.
No. Right now. All right. So, right now, meaning in the context of that question, data can be that which are present. Of course, for majority of people, it is the present data. Data can be about that which is absent also.
I got it, sir. While she was fast tracking through her sessions, I wanted to participate in that and catch up as well.
No, I didn't mean that. I said right now, you see, there are only 4 people, okay? Then that unconscious was familiar with many people
Right.
in such a situation.
Mhm.
And in today's situation, we are almost, our system has already concluded that all the others may not come.
Okay.
So there was a scanning of all the others. In that all the others, this question
Mhm.
can be asked only about Aisha miracle.
Because she has not been present. Got it.
Because she is not here, she has not been present or she is not here, etc. Then the only one person about whom the non-conscious can collect a data is about Aisha miracle. You cannot talk about Nitya, you cannot talk about Veena Ganesh, you cannot talk about Meenakshi, etc. Because right now we have openly concluded or non-consciously you are aware that the others are very unlikely to come now. It's already 10:30.
Right.
So then the only potential candidate is Aisha miracle.
Okay.
So rather we are coming to suddenly by the contest the dynamic power of intentionality of our intellect. The mystery and the magic of intentionality present in the root, present in every subatomic particle level. So what is intentionality? That you can understand. To any word LITY in English language added, that means having that potential, having that continuity, having that, okay, ability, able, having ableness, ability, okay, having sustain, something is sustaining, so sustainability, okay, action going on, activity, so ITY. So having intentions or having that nature of intentions is called intentionality, all right. So that is even with the subatomic particle. Because without that intentionality, that means that intent. What is the meaning of intent? Check the meaning, Tintin, if you can.
Yes, sir. Intention or purpose determined to do something.
You read the meaning by number 1, 2, 3 like that. 1, all right.
Okay,
2.
sir. The number 1, intention or purpose. That is a noun. In adjective, it is determined to do something. That's number 2. Number 3 is a look or expression showing earnest and eager attention. Then in Cambridge,
Just a minute.
yes, sir.
George Surian is calling. Oh, okay, GC, good morning to you. right now I am in a discussion, you see. I am in a discussion right now. No, no, do you have any critical questions or critical message? All right, okay. Yeah. Yeah, what we have been talking?
About intent, sir.
Yeah, that is true. But what was the last sentence?
The last sentence was...
Yeah, was about the ability to have intents. Okay.
Yeah.
The nature of having intents, and you were reading out the meanings.
Yes, sir.
Why you couldn't say that and I could say that? I the one who forgets to change the timing of the session. I the one who forgets even the name of Mandra Rishiga. How could I remember that? And you did not remember that. Just a minute. Right now we talked about tea. Tea is calling. Yes, tea for you. Yeah, please talk to Ame. I am in a meeting. All right. Okay. Bye. All right. See, that is the other side of intentionality. You did not take that looking into the meaning of the word intent as your own intentionality. You did it as a work or a job or a task or an action according to my instruction. Of course, you would do it sincerely. It is not about that. Rather, I am telling another greater secret why, for example, India will never reach economically top in the world at all. Because most Indians are, okay, even those included, doing a job completely, let us say so, completely, like you are going to do or you did. But that was not a part of your intent. Get the point. Therefore, instantly I asked what you have been doing, where did we stop? All right. So I am seeing the referent of intentionality and looking at it, I am talking. That's why I don't remember sometimes. When there is an interruption, I forget. If I learn the subject, I will remember. So when I asked you, you were not able to engage with that question. Or you did not focus on the apparent referent of that question. So I am not blaming you. So what I am telling is, this is one reality of the world. Nothing wrong about that. You can do a job or a work or an action by the instruction of somebody. And important thing, of course, you do it completely and without making any bias or without avoiding or missing elements in that. All right, that is okay. And in this context, I just use this context as a case study to talk about having intentionality in whatever you do. And that is what a genius in self is. That is what every bird is, every cat is, every tree is, every other entity is in the universe. They would do what they do. Of course, here this was not your doing. You don't have to. I told you, I repeat, I am using it as a case. So when you when you reflect more on intentionality, it is a very mysteriously complex subject in the sense that it has network linkages with every expression, every response, every behavior, every action, every moment of relating with the world outside and world inside and world nearby, and in the choice of every piece of word. You see, that's why it is so central. It is an invariant condition. It is an invariant of the universe process outside as well as inside. And the intentionality of that, no, I can go on like this. So, anyway, coming back to the point, read out the meanings. Okay, second one, intent.
Determined to do something. Then showing earnest and eager attention is number 3. Those are Google meanings.
Yeah, go into Merriam-Webster first.
Merriam-Webster, full definition of intent. Number 1, a usually clearly formulated or planned intention, an aim. Then the act, number 2, the act or fact of intending a purpose.
Yeah, that's very critical. Yeah. Everything is critical, but that is top. Yeah, all right. Yeah. That is in our context also. Yeah.
The state of mind, number 3, the state of mind with which an act is done, volition.
Yeah. Along with hearing the song, work also. Tin, tin.
Okay, sir.
So everything is a variant,
Mm-hmm.
and variants are linked to other variants by
Intentionality.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the first meaning or first aspect of the conceptions of intent or intentionality, somehow a person, a developing boy or girl, develops an intentionality to become a pilot, to become an entrepreneur, to become a philosopher, to become a mystic, to become a doctor, engineer, collector, etc., 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 etc. If that aim is really an aim, then the various acts and activities, various doings of that boy will have clear indications of the intentionality of that. A lot of people may say, I want to become a collector. I want to become a this, that. That is just an imitation of a desirable, uh, attractive, glamorous choice. It had no intentionality attached to that. Get the point. Therefore, he does not prepare, he does not read books, or he does not do almost anything that can get him achieve that fulfillment of the aim. He just talks a dialogue that I have that aim. When somebody is asked,
Mm-hmm.
when somebody asked, then purpose. Yeah, most of the human activities have a purpose. But now you must be aware that intentionality is not purpose either. They are all meanings given by the language developers to give some clarity to the reader or to the one who is really researching on the concept of intentionality. Get the point?
Yeah, yes, sir.
But nevertheless,
Exactly.
the referent or the concept of aim, purpose, evolution, etc., have some implications or connotations. So some light thrown from a distance to clarify the possible, probable nature of the referent of intentionality. So we have to use these words and meanings so that our perception engines get completely powered by clarity of intent of itself as well as its objects of intentionality. Objective meaning focus, like the aim or purpose or the target. When that so-called sexual development happens in a boy, he develops an intentionality. It is an organically powered intentionality. So till yesterday, the girl was sitting in her house in the adjacent road. They would go and meet. They may play caroms or whatever together. They enjoyed it completely. But now he gets up, but he decides to go and meet her at 4 o'clock. I mean, after the tea, he just like that decides to go to meet her. The intentionality has become slightly varied, driven by organic and neuronal changes. First day, somebody forces me to smoke cigarette or take a small, and after a year or so, it becomes an intentionality of by evening somehow I have to drink. And if that is not possible, there is an obvious disturbance. So intentionality can have, it can be with every variant, every behavioral variant, every expression variant. Everything is a variant. Don't forget. When we talk about the 5 components of the human entity, namely expressions, responses, behaviors, actions, ways of relationship, and language, spoken or thought, every aspect of it can have its own intentionality. Like you go to a government office, there are not much people like Naveen, so they will not look at you first of all. That means
Right,
the
sir.
intentionality is that please don't come to my table. Okay. So expressions convey intentionality. Expressions induce intentionality on the part of the other people. Expression can induce behaviors even among your cats and dogs. So I'm just going on giving examples of the varied orbits of linkages of intentionality itself. Like the plant in the corner of your room will try to go out towards the window. That is why early child development is very critical. Whatever practices learned during childhood cannot be forgotten. They become unconscious intentionalities. The intentionalities of words, they get linked with other words. A word is a variant because a given word can linkage with many other words. Within a certain
Oh.
boundary of its the potentiality for intentionality. Now I am talking a new concept that the power of intentionality. I think one of the meanings is suggesting that you intend for something and it happens. What was the intent of the woodcutter in varied uh, junctions of the events and episodes of that day? What was the intentionality of the woodcutter in general about life, about work, about relationships, about oneself? See the uh, variance of intentionalities. That means see the uh, type of intentionalities or see the moment uh, of activities or whatever situations or seen in that parable of the woodcutter where you can identify the intentionalities of entities, things and phenomena. Where you can identify the intentionalities of entities, I mean the human being, things and phenomena. Yeah, got some responses from the act of that intentionality to answer to that question. There was an intentionality to discover the answers to that question. Was there an intentionality or was there just a purpose? There's a lot of difference between having intentionality and having a purpose. Purpose is a conscious choice. Aim is a conscious choice. That's why I gave that classic example. It becomes the totality of that crystal ball. Whenever there is a chance, if that gum, the moment the gum becomes weak, it will roll down. For the smart boy of 3 years old, if the door is open, it will go out. The intentionality of Carlos Castaneda
Mm.
was 100%. Let us say, now you're talking the other side of a paradox. 100% to release the rabbits.
Mm.
And in the very act of that intentionality, maybe the act was wrong, or maybe the act was not an
Okay.
intelligent act, and the animal died. Then Donyan says it was my intent not to catch a rabbit. It was my intent to create a rabbit trap. When I intend to create a rabbit trap, it is not for a joke. A rabbit trap is a rabbit trap is a rabbit trap, and it will catch a rabbit. That's all. And
Mm.
it was the intentionality of the destiny of that particular rabbit out of the thousands of rabbits here
Mm-hmm.
that precisely directed that particular rabbit to turn around among this kind of plants and bushes and land up in the custody of that trap.
Oh, so much contradictory. Yeah.
Yeah, there is a paradox.
Yes, sir.
So many linkages, sir.
Yeah, so many linkages.
And intentionality is triggering these cascading linkages.
Yeah, your intentionality is getting the linkages of examples of intentionality. That's what you said, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, good.
Mm.
And I would say the more clearer or stronger the intentionality, it supersedes the other intentionalities.
Not all other intentionalities, some intentionalities which are blocking in nature to do the act or which are irrelevant. And that is again, when you said that, that is only partly applicable, which is very good identification, no doubt. And that is what is working in, let's say, in creativity therapy. Till that
Mm.
time, the non-conscious mindsets of varied kinds were formed by whatever reasons had that intentionality, and therefore it attracted or invoked or elicited or originated or generated or manifested varied needless acts and uh, behavior patterns, whatever. And by a creative shift in perspective, the intentionality becomes something beyond that, like you said now, and other intentionalities become weaker. Like the boy who was so possessive about his what you call remote controlled cars. Uh, Once he becomes 6 years, 7 years, and when he comes across cricket or cycling or whatever, he throws away. So he just don't bother about the toy cars anymore. Intentionality has shifted.
Mm-hmm.
Can you define? Can you understand? Can you explain? Can you get a feel of the intentionality of the woodcutter to seek the permission of the trees?
He is close to the nature process. He understands that's the correct way.
That's only fourth orbit explanation, not answer to the first orbit of the question. Question, what is the question?
Intentionality of the woodcutter to seek permission of the tree.
Yeah.
The woodcutter needs to cut a tree to sell to sustain himself, and
Therefore,
he wants to cut a tree which is eligible to be cut, and he wants to align his intentionality with the willingness with the intentionality of the tree.
Okay, that is somewhat a response. Anything else?
I think it was all linked to his sensitivity. And somewhere he was sensitive that to sustain his life, he is injuring something, somebody or some entity. And it was all linked to his sensitivity that he took permission.
No, no, no. Then what is the intentionality of that sensitivity? That is the question. That intentionality made him sensitive to whatever you said.
Mhm.
Part two, what Tintin said, one is okay. Then the two more interpretation, two more so-called reasons or locus of control for that act of asking the or seeking the permission of a tree before it is being cut. One is that. Okay. What you said, Tintin? Once again, clearly state it.
The intentionality of the woodcutter
Hmm.
to cut a tree
Hmm.
for sustenance had to align with the intentionality of the tree to be which allowed it to be cut.
All right. Hmm. Okay. Anything else?
The he will not
But Naveen had
violate the intentionality.
Naveen said something, but that is to be repackaged to be an appropriate answer to the intentionality of the question.
Mm.
What is the intentionality of that question, for example?
To find the linkages existing
Hmm.
between the woodcutter and the environment.
That is one. Two, intentionality of that question. Simply to know whether you understand intentionality.
Okay, sir.
Three, whether you have the power, whether you are exercising the power of reflection sufficient enough to get one more clue to identify what was the intentionality operating in the mindset of the woodcutter before seeking permission to cut. So only one linkage.
Mm.
Look at what you said once again, Tintin. You are not talking about the nucleus, the invariant or the core variant of what you wanted to say. Say that once again. Then you may click that particular shot of the location of the answer.
The intentionality has been to
Yeah.
encounter Satori.
No, no, don't go to that level. This is no, no, no. That is from the perspective of the whole parable. It is about intentionality of seeking permission of a tree before putting the axe on it.
Alignment with or the his
Hmm.
being part of the nature process, the forest,
Uh,
is part of that whole system,
hmm.
and the timing is important for each tree and for him.
Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, his intentionality had already incorporated a total strategy of his activity because that was a part of the overall larger intentionality of survival. So, he being a master in whatever he did, he could easily understand the intentionality of the nature process involved. When he is cutting a tree, what more things are happening?
It's an end for a tree, the
One,
possible
two,
probable beginning
two.
for another tree.
No, 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 no. Don't go to that level. Two. It's only a possibility. Other than that, much operating linkages are there. Linkages of other intentionalities are there. I said there are linkages of other intentionalities involved. Amaya, Mandra Rishika, are you there?
And this is a part of a survival.
Of what?
That cutting the tree is a part of a survival. Only if he gets the tree, then on that day.
That's already mentioned.
Um, Maybe some other creatures are also depending on the tree.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Some other creatures, maybe butterflies or bees or whatever. Their intentionalities also were attached to the existence of the tree.
Right.
Then three. One more. At least one more. Okay, one more larger intentionality. I told you everything in the universe is a variance. And the second premise is that everything has intentionality.
Mhm.
Every entity, everything, every phenomenon, every item, every moment has its intentionality.
The axe, its intentionality is to cut a tree.
No, anything else? I gave the clue, a larger scale of intentionality. What is that?
To reach the core of the forest towards
No, 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 no. To reach the core, no, no, no. Much more simple and obvious because it is so obvious, perhaps you don't see it.
the life of the tree is complete.
No, no, no. That you said already. The tree's intentionality. If the tree has that intentionality to permit, it will permit. And the woodcutter has the sensitivity to identify the intentionality of the tree, vis-a-vis willingness or unwillingness.
He has to cut a tree that day.
No, no, that's all different. No, no. That you can say intentionality of the destiny, but that is a part of his activity for survival. He has to cut a tree. He has gone to the forest with the intentionality to cut a tree. Yes, agreed. But the question here is why he is seeking the agreement of the tree, rather the agreement, intentionality of agreement to be cut. One, as you said, which is little deeper, the intentionality of survival of the human being and the intentionality of the survival of the tree, which is that woodcutter wanted to check the correlation, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's okay. Second, like Mandra Rishika said, the so-called other birds and insects and varied other microorganisms that are resting on the survival of the tree. Three,
To come out of his guilt feeling that he's cutting a tree, he's going to cut a tree.
yeah, that's a good observation, of course. Yeah, that's a very good observation, no doubt. But we are not sure about guilt feeling and all that. Rather,
Mhm.
not necessarily guilt feeling, to avoid an erratic action, of course. Of course, he may not do that, and if he happens to commit that error, of course, with his mind setting, he is very likely to feel disturbed. No doubt about that. That's good. and to preempt that such a possibility, right?
Sure.
Okay, good. Another that's also a little deeper. When we talk about three is the minimum linkage. Depending upon the context, depending upon the episode and event and act and the behavior and response, etc., there could be even hundreds of linkages.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Now, another very obvious which I want you to identify. Actually obvious, but you may not have focused your attention. There is, I see, a connection with what Naveen said. Naveen talked about sensitivity, but that is not about
Yes.
intentionality. But
Mm-hmm.
sensitivity about intentionality is required on your part to identify the intentionalities of entities and acts and events and phenomena. You're sensitive, but you're aware, but your sensitivity is not, as of now, controlled by clarity of mental impression about intentionality.
People need good.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, yeah, that's all. That is all very good. But that is about the act of cutting trees only. But you could have interpreted in another way. For example, at a real genius level, interpretation is that I'm just reinterpreting what Tintin said. This woodcutter would not like to give firewoods to people who are cooking food to enable their sustenance by the unwillingness, by violating the principles of existence of trees. That's a beautiful idea, but you have to have that beautiful idea. I am only giving that interpretation. Or from this example, you should have the flexibility or variation. Your attention to what you think about requires much more variation, freak out variation, or poetic variation. You have reached a little bit, but you could have reinterpreted the variation. Anyway, like I did. Now, another very obvious thing, Tintin, a larger thing. These are the two clue concepts which I am giving, so that you will say that. And definitely that intentionality must be there. Okay, I will give one more clue. It is somewhat linked in the nature of idea, somewhat linked with the nature of idea, which Mandra Rishika mentioned. That's the third clue.
About life.
Life of what? No,
The woodcutter.
no.
The other. Mantra talked about the animals and the birds which are living in the tree.
Yeah. Okay. What is the next? What is the next orbit?
The tree with the forest.
Of course, the neighboring trees. They were all together from since inception. Just imagine. It is like one of your friends being injured in a public whatever upheaval. And in fact, this was even scientifically proved by Jagdish Chandra Bose.
Yes.
When one plant is cut, the neighborhood plants also shows actual electrical potential variation. All right. Now, will you be able to identify the intentionality of that axe? Was there an intentionality on the part of that blade? If that blade is, of course, a variant, that variant is fixed on to the handle, which will prevent any variation. It is an invariant, it is almost an invariant part of the handle. So now the axe, the blade, and the axe is especially made by an ancient craftsman. It is almost like a single piece. How can a single piece divide into two? We can actually think as if a single piece divided into two, handle and the axe blade. Was there an intentionality operating? If according to very Franz Brendano, if even objects and material entities can have intentionality, was there an intentionality on the part of the blade of the axe? Was there an intentionality on the part of the handle to let go the blade? Or was there an intentionality, like Naveen said, on the destiny of the Satori to be killed on the spot? What was the intentionality of the woodcutter who continued to cut the tree regardless of the attack from the Satori? Are there intentionalities controlling your movements? I mean, your overall destiny or party destiny or day-to-day movements or weekly movements, etc.? What was the intentionality by which you happened to see the email and others did not? Now, most of the smartphones, I think they give a signal. I have not set it in that way. Did you notice the email by the signaling of the phone or by your during your routine check, Tintin?
Not routine checking, sir.
Then why? How come you noticed that email?
There, it came up as a notification.
Oh, that is a normal setting in every smartphone, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You don't have to particularly set it, right?
No.
And how did you notice, Naveen?
Yes, sir. I was also doing routine check, and in that sense, I got the notification.
Oh, when you made the routine check, then you saw that.
Yes.
By the way, why did you do the routine check?
As
Because
I had
this is a Sunday. Would you normally do a routine check?
an hour after 2, I had a visitors. And just in the morning, I have some visitors, and I was talking to them,
Huh.
and that's why the phone was away from me. And when I got time, I just checked it. Is there any moment of urgency or not?
It was not ordinary actually because my phone itself was having a low battery. The laptop and everything were in different places. In fact,
Now
I was
this
putting the clothes on in the top when I chanced on it.
okay. When I chanced on it, it's a very poetic construction. Okay, and now if you look at the statistics, the message was sent to 14 people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and 2 out of 14 is a very minimal statistics. At least in the given context, at least 3 more, or at least a total 3.
Mm.
Should be noticing whatever not what you call prop up in the what you call smartphone or something like that. No, I'm not questioning it. I'm talking about again trying to correlate it with why that single thing divided into two, the axe and the handle. Was there an intentionality? If there is an intentionality, what was the locus of control, or who or what entity, what variant carried that intentionality? So I will ask more question. Was there an invariant carrying an intentionality?
Yes,
Yeah, come on. Which one? Invariant or variant?
invariant.
An invariant carried that intentionality. What invariant? What is that apparent nature of that invariant? You got it, but to conceptualize it, I suppose.
Death of Satori or closure of Satori, achieving Satori. For that to happen, the axe has to slip away from its.
Yeah, that is okay, but that we can come. You can interpret easily. But the question is, where was the location? What is the source of that intentionality? Or where is the source? You can also say by the deeper concept sense of the term intentionality, or deeper uh, quality of the reality or referent of intentionality, that means the truth of intentionality, that there cannot be an act, there cannot be a response, there cannot be a behavior, there cannot be a relationship, there cannot be a dialogue without some intentionality, either conscious or very aggressive or pre-conscious or subconscious or non-conscious of the individual involved or other entities and phenomena and things connected with the individuals. Definitely. In other words, the ball will not roll unless the plane is inclined, unless the ball had the properties to roll. If it was a paper ball, it would not, perhaps.
Right.
Do you think the axe can have the intentionality?
No.
Do you think the Satori, the animal, had the intentionality to get killed? No.
Mm,
No. Then
no.
what carried probably? Where is the location of that intentionality? Of the axe getting divided and or split and the disturbing animal get killed in the event.
The tree
It
has to
is
be.
no. It is in
All
the
right.
woodcutter.
Okay, let us consider both. Okay.
Mm.
Okay. First, how? Okay, if you say that, I told you sometime back. Primarily, what we do is not to know the truth of intentionality. Also, one of the spokes of our activity is to exercise your engines of reflection and conceptualization or creative conceptualization. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
In that
Yes, sir.
case, if you said the tree had the intentionality, can you explain? Can you interpret? Can you substantiate? Can you defend your thesis that a tree had the intentionality?
Tree. If tree had the intentionality, then after giving permission, it must have thought that I should get cut.
Now, once again,
If tree has intentionality,
mm,
and then after giving permission,
mm,
although it's not in the parable that the tree is giving permission or not, but at least the woodcutter seeks permission,
mm.
and it is assumed that the tree must have given the permission.
Oh, definitely yes.
Then it's the part of the tree, a part of the tree to get cut.
Okay, all right. Okay, good point. Because the tree assumed the position like that crystal ball on an inclined plane. Yeah,
Yes.
good, all right. That's a good. That's a very beautiful interpretation. But how? What intentionality? What non-conscious data process inside Tintin gave him the idea to talk what you talked? That it is or you are just making a guess. Okay. Any other response from Amaya Rajrishi or Mantra Rishiga about? Can you interpret what Tintin said? Naveen already interpreted it, but if you have anything more, do you have any other thinking?
When I felt something similar to what Naveenji said.
But you say that.
Yeah, that is the tree wanted to be cut without any disturbance, exactly how the master woodcutter wanted to cut the tree. Because there was a disturbance for the master woodcutter, he had to at times stop cutting the tree and try to kill the animal. But then the tree has to wait to be cut. This is Naveenji said.
All right, okay, good.
It was
Mantra Rishiga,
also
yeah, continue.
so it was also an intention of the tree so that the animal is killed. But I think it is. I also feel it is an intention of two different elements. That is the tree and the axe. Because what the tree and axe, I feel it is connected as the axe is a tool which is with connection with which has a connection with the tree. Because it is the axe that is being used to cut the tree. So the tree might have communicated with the axe, and so by doing so, the axe kills the animal.
Okay, good. Mantra Rishiga, you have some interpretation of what Tintin said?
As of now, I don't have any interpretation. I'm still thinking about it.
But you cognized the interpretations offered by Naveen and Mantra Rishiga. Sorry, Amaya Rajrishi.
Yeah.
Okay, what was their interpretation?
That the um, the Satori was um, keeping the woodcutter away from cutting the tree, and that resulted in the tree not being cut for some time. And it was the intention of the tree that worked uh, in killing the Satori. And as Amaya said, he's talked about the intention of the axe and the tree.
All right. When I asked the question, where was the location or the source of intentionality of the splitting of the axe into the handle and the blade? So, Tintin said it was the intentionality of the tree, which was explained by Naveen and Amaya. When Tintin said that first, secondly, Naveen had an answer. What was that?
Yeah, I had said that it is the intentionality of the woodcutter.
Yeah. How do you explain that? Because apparently the intentionality of woodcutter, as of now, if for an observer, is to cut the tree.
Right.
Because he had that active intentionality to kill the animal. He
Exactly.
tried it several times, and he was a master in using the axe to kill animals. And such a person, such a master, had already resigned from the idea of getting rid of the animal. Finally, then only he started his final shot of cutting. At that time, the axe got split and the blade flew and hit the animal. So, how do you say that it was the intentionality of the woodcutter by which the axe got split? If you say that, okay, you can say that, but you have to explain it. You have to logic. You have to explain a logic. You have to give a logic.
His intentionality got the linkages of axe, blade being getting separated from the handle and kill the animal.
Yeah.
It is all due to the intentionality of the woodcutter, his attention and concentration that led to the final event of
You have
creature
an
getting.
answer. Yeah, you have to
Yeah.
explain little more.
Mhm.
You're right. But you have to interpret it little more. You said now that it
Yes,
was
sir.
the power of his attention or quality of dedication, whatever it is,
Yeah,
that led
yes,
to
sir.
the kill. But
Exactly. Exactly, sir.
how do you explain that linkage? You have to explain the linkage.
The linkages of the other orbits or the.
No. Same linkage.
Oh,
You explain it little further. Right now you said his attention
yeah,
on the act of cutting.
exactly, sir.
That's what you said.
Hmm.
His
Yes.
attention on the act of cutting led to the killing of the animal, led to the splitting of the
Yes.
axe. How?
His attention on the act of cutting plus his desire to complete that before the end of the day.
That second part is okay.
Mhm.
Huh? What is the second part? To finish the act of cutting on that day. How that power of attention gets linkage. There is a linkage, but how? What is the root of that linkage? The root map of that linkage you have to explain. Can you? Or can you, Amaya? Can you, Mandra Rishika? Not can you? Why don't you try?
I'm sorry, Sam. I didn't hear the question. I just there was some
No.
sound outside.
Navin Chandra says
Hmm.
that axe got split into its handle and the blade, and the blade flew and killed the animal, or forget about killing the animal. The axe got split into two by the intentionality of the woodcutter. Okay, explain why, how. Explain the roadmap of that intentionality. Like you explained the roadmap of what Tintin said, the intentionality of the tree. That you explained. Now, how do you explain the intentionality of the woodcutter involved in the splitting of the axe, his very beloved axe? What will he subsequently look at the axe and wonder? Because I suppose you know the fixing of an axe.
Mhm.
The wood is tapered negatively on one end. It's a thick size. And that round part of the axe is actually forced with a
Mhm.
hammer till it cannot move further. That much is the thickness of the end of the handle. And how can such an axe split? Then what will do? Okay, the tree animal got cut, etc., etc. So that is good, but he would be wondering about that tool.
Mhm.
Let us say you have the most beloved sword with you, with which you have been doing all the acts for the last 20 years, and one day, okay, in a similar situation, the sword got broken and the broken piece entered into somebody else and the opponent died. So that is good. But what
Mhm.
about the sword?
Mhm.
There is a connection between the intentionality, some element of intentionality of the woodcutter in getting the uh, uh, tool split.
Is it the
If you
will?
say that, if it is accepted, in which way you can you can negotiate your logic, you can manipulate your logic to substantiate what you said. That's a challenge of your reflection and conceptualization.
The will of the woodcutter
Hmm. About
bend
what?
the axe to complete the act of cutting necessitated his favorite tool to perform an extraordinary, unusual act.
Okay, good. But still see whether there is still any more. We have to always remember the equation of the three. That is accepted. Okay, beautiful. What is the next? What is the next point? Because everything, every moment, let us say, every moment in the universe is a variant,
It is
including whatsoever range of things happen everywhere in the universe at a given moment. They are all variants. And every variant is definitely driven by an invariant. That's a different question. But what other variants? One of the variant condition you said, okay, the will of the woodcutter to finish cutting the tree definitely set because he resigned from all the attempts to kill the animal. Let it do any damn thing, I will continue to cut. It was a final resolve because he tried all that he could. And then he finally personally realized that this animal is definitely beyond my capacity.
yes.
That's how he finally resolved. So, and that is the resolve of a woodcutter. He violated that resolve many times before, but this is the final resolve. So there was the will to continue cutting. Okay, that intentionality got somehow linked with the splitting of the axe. What could be the second point of intentionality? Only 20 minutes more. What do you think, Mantra Rishika? What could be the second spoke of the linkage?
Yeah, I couldn't hear Swami. I was
All right.
I went to
You
leave the
remember
Swami.
everything exists by three linkages of two variants, and every one of that three variants will have further three linkages to other variants, and so on and so forth. And every variant has its intentionality by which only the linkage is projected to an action. So Mantra Rishika is listening, right?
Yeah.
Now the question is how that single tool, that powerful, that beautiful axe got split, and that action of splitting, or that moment of split, or that event of splitting of the axe into its components of handle and the blade, can happen only by some intentionality, by the linkages of minimum three intentionalities. One is the will of the woodcutter to finish cutting. Okay, accepted. What is the second? And what could be the third? Actually, it is so obvious. What is so much to think, meditate, Tintin? What happened as a result of the split of the axe?
Satori got killed.
Yeah. Therefore, where is the location of intentionality?
Kill the
On that
animal.
animal.
Yeah, like the will of the woodcutter, there was something in the animal, like what you call Naveen only said in the beginning. The destiny, what is a destiny? By the very ordinary astrological meaning of destiny, destiny is nothing but a package of intentionalities.
Right, sir.
The so called birth chart is
Mhm.
indicating a package of intentionalities only. At this age, he will complete education. At this age, he will get married. This is normally the
Mhm.
contents of a birth chart, which are all causing, which are all apparently caused by the intentionalities of the various stars and its positions at the time of birth of the child. Similarly, at the time of the split of the handle and the axe, what were the planetary configuration of intentionalities? One is with the will of the woodcutter. Second is with the destiny of the Satori. And third is with
Right.
what?
The tree.
Tree already it is mentioned.
Mhm.
Of course, tree, from this angle, the tree, agreed. Okay, agreed. Because linkages are mutual. So, tree, tree's intentionality was already mentioned. Agreed. Okay, third is the tree. Then what is the fourth?
The axe is mentioned, right?
Intentionality of the axe? No. Of
The
course.
forest.
You said just like that, a guesswork, I suppose. Intentionality of the axe. Is there any chance for the axe to develop that intentionality? Because there must be a definite role of the axe. Otherwise, it cannot sacrifice itself. How come the axe would develop an intentionality?
Due to its linkage with its master.
That, of course, it had its linkages.
Because the handle of the axe is made of out of wood.
And that's a good poetic linkage. But other than that, there is a solid reason why the axe developed that intentionality.
Yeah, the first 2-3 times the master woodcutter tries to kill the animal with the axe.
Exactly. Not two, three times. That is what is mentioned. Possibly more than that. Axe had a definite role as a prop, as a tool in the initial series of attempts by the very competent master. So Axe had already taken an active role towards killing the
Mhm.
Satori Tintin.
Mhm.
In fact, Axe had the role.
Yes.
The Axe had moved itself, let us say so. Because we are making a lot of movements thinking that we do it. Actually, no. We are also some kind of axis in the handle of destiny, in the hands of destiny. Using the axe of the intellect of Tintin, some company is making some products, for example. So axe had taken, axe was the operating tool. If the axe had a life, and if the axe was unaware of who is controlling its movement, like most human beings do not understand why they did certain things,
Mhm.
that axe only tried 4, 5, 6, 7 times very genuinely. For that axe, it was the most efficient movements, of course, controlled by the invisible woodcutter. Its most efficient movements could not kill the animal. So axe also was waiting for an opportunity, like the heavy crusted ball on an inclined plane.
Yeah.
Now the question is, how Tintin said that? That was the intentionality of Tintin as a reflection or thinking or analysis to somehow come with an answer. He tried his best
Yes.
to get an answer.
Mhm.
And at some moment, when he stopped trying, the axe of his attention slipped out and killed the Satori of an answer.
Right.
So understanding the intentionality of that event alone can throw a lot of light in explaining situations and events and contexts and uh, varied acts and overall destiny of human beings also. If we are all access, our movements are controlled by nature process. Our eating, our drinking, our thought process, our mindsets, our character, the integrity of the tool. When the tool is of high integrity, it will be used by a master in the most efficient way. Then only it would get tuned with an efficient master. Like the greatest craftsman made that sword, and that sword was waiting for an opportunity. We can even say that the entire parable of the master cook was the design of the sword. It was all the manifestation of the intentionality of that master craftsman who, with all the power of attention in the world, made a sword to gift to the emperor. Similarly, that axe was definitely a well crafted sword and a well used sword, axe. So that axe will almost duplicate, imbibe the spirit of intentionality of its invisible owner. Invisible owner meaning for the axe, the owner is invisible.
Yes.
The owner is connected. The blade is the cutting thing, but the blade is linked with the hands through the medium of the handle. So the blade is connected with the owner, the source, only indirectly. We are all engaging with handles of things, not the tools, not with the blades. We say we think. The blade of thinking is not directly under our control, but through some invisible uh, handle. Do you see?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So be the finest axe, finest blade. Be aware that all your blades of competencies, of your attention, of your perception, of your reflection, of your thinking, of your imagination, of your visualization, and so on and so forth, they are all there in its original sharpened, original condition actually. Quite likely. Try to get the handles properly and have that intentionality of the woodcutter to have completeness in everything. To get the intentionality properly linked with everything that you do and everything that you do not do. Like a matrix inversion, you invert all these understandings in varied ways and discover many, many more insights in understanding the mystery and the wonder and the beauty of existence of everything around, as well as the very you. And in today's discussion, the primary axle is that every variant is connected with minimum 3 variants and many more through the intentionality of the variant. Develop a total central invariant intentionality like that of the woodcutter. Develop 3 or more fundamental core orbit one intentionalities in your life, in your work, with your relationship, and be an impeccable tool in the invisible hands of the varied forces of nature process by which the given you has been originated into this world in this current form to exist for some time. All right?